They call it making Aliyah. It literally means going up. In modern Judaism, it has taken on two meanings, one ancient, which is to visit Jerusalem on a pilgrimage, and another modern, to actually immigrate to Israel. But its roots are already present in the Psalms. Psalm 122 is one of the most moving psalms of a type called songs of ascent. Not ascent as in agreeing, but ascent in ascending, going up. Even non-Jewish pilgrims are moved by its beautiful words. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. And this is your daily devotional for Saturday, September 28th, 2024. The city of Jerusalem sits nestled in the Judean hills between the Mediterranean Sea to the west and the Jordan Valley to the east. It sits on a mountain ridge that runs roughly north and south, bisecting the country into an arid region to the east and a more temperate climate with dry summers and wet winters to the west. The modern city sprawls out over a wide area, but the oldest parts of the city are well defined and sit largely within a series of walls constructed at different times over the centuries. The current walled city is roughly 3,000 feet on each side, enclosing a space of about no more than a third of a square mile. Interestingly, the old city does not occupy the highest point in Jerusalem, but there are hills that actually look down upon the old city, including the Mount of Olives to the east. And yet, when Jews talk about going to Jerusalem, it is always up, Aliyah. There is a collection of psalms from Psalm 120 to Psalm 134 known collectively as the Songs of Ascent, the Songs of Aliyah. They are kind of like odes to Jerusalem, probably sung by ancient pilgrims going to the temple from surrounding regions for one of the various festivals. The temple, of course, was the focal point of these pilgrimages, and the ascent to the temple was highlighted by the fact that pilgrims had to ascend a long set of broad steps even to get to the temple complex itself. Sitting on those steps on the south side of the Temple Mount, one can almost hear pilgrims singing to themselves, or maybe in small groups, one of these songs of ascent. The most striking of these to me is Psalm 122, one of today's Psalter readings from this morning in the daily lectionary. It reads, "I was glad when they said to me, 'Let us go to the house of the Lord.' Our feet are standing within your gates, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem built as a city that is bound firmly together. To it the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, as was decreed for Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. For there the thrones for judgment were set up, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers. For the sake of my relatives and friends, I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your good." Even today, Jews, Christians, and other people of goodwill remember and say to each other the words of verse 6, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers." Of course, given the tensions that surround modern Israel and Palestine, these words are always deeply poignant, by turns hopeful and heartbreaking. And yet even today, pilgrims from all over the world visit Jerusalem. In its narrow, windy, and congested streets, you will find people seemingly of every race and nation and language, always reminding me of the depiction of the city in Acts 2, the story of Pentecost. There we read, "When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem, and at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, 'Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us, in our own native language? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs. In our own language, we hear them speaking about God's deeds of power. Well, nowadays it's not just Jews, but also Christians and Muslims who literally come from every corner of the world speaking every imaginable language. They have different interests and loyalties, but all share a love of the city, even if their love of it puts them at odds with each other. I hope you get to make the pilgrimage to Jerusalem someday. Psalm 122 will resound and resonate in a new and profound way, and you'll never hear the name Jerusalem the same way again. When we return next week, I'll take up my series on what makes a Presbyterian, but for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.